I want to convene the January 29th, 2019 meeting of the Brattleboro Selectboard. We know the meeting has been properly warned because we were here at 6 o'clock for executive session. I want to start off with public participation. This is the time in the meeting where people can speak about something that is not on tonight's agenda. So if you'd like to speak about something that's not on tonight's agenda, let me know. Dick. Please tell us who you are.
Dick DeGray, Brattleboro. Maybe the speech worked last week, but we have races in the select board, and actually I think in the town school board. I think that's a great thing for the community, that all seats will be challenged and people will have a choice this year. So thank you for all the candidates that put their name in, and I hope we have a 70% turnout. Thank you.
Thanks, Dick.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak about something not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll start with our first item under unfinished business, which is the Arts Fund proposal, which we talked about a week ago.
Yes, 1 week ago tonight.
Yeah, 1 week ago tonight. And Arlene, if you want to come over. And Arlene has provided us with another sheet of paper. And what I've asked Arlene is if she can just tell us if there's anything new from last week.
So, a week is not a very long time to get this happening. Should I?
That won't amplify your voice.
Yeah.
That's for the TV.
Okay. What we've come up with is the idea of a standalone group that would look at proposals and make decisions and administer the funds. It would consist of people from TAC, from the Arts Council, and maybe 3 others that would be from the arts community. Also, we propose the idea of the DBA and chamber funds, which are newly given to them for promotion, to take a percentage of that, which could be the $8,000 that we originally proposed, to take that out of those funds. So it would be essentially 8% of rooms and the local option rooms and meals, and 2% for arts.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments?
Yes, I don't want to go first, though.
Oh.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, gosh.
You can.
Be loving.
Did everyone have a chance to read?
Yes.
Yeah. So just for clarity, you were just saying that the proposal now might be to have it be within the 10% that we've voted on already.
Right. Because that 10% is for promoting the town, and a lot of what we're about are the arts, and so kind of makes sense to me to use some of that, earmark it for the arts.
I support the arts in Brattleboro. I mean, it's a wonderful community we have here. I don't support this idea, and I'll explain why again. The DBA proposal, in my mind, is exclusively for promotion of Brattleboro, directly for promotion. And it has a direct relationship, in my mind, to the revenue we get from the meals, rooms, and alcohol tax. which in turn lowers the burden on our property taxpayers. The public arts is wonderful and can contribute greatly to the vitality and attractiveness of this town, which can help bring in visitors, which is why public art should be one of the ways the DBA should choose to use those funds through their promotions. So I believe, in other words, that the DBA should be supporting the arts through the funding that we're providing here. But the position the select board has taken is that these monies will be for promotion of Brattleboro overall, and in a way, lift all the boats in the process. So another objection I have to this is it seems to set us up for a lot of whatabouts. So this feels like it was thrown out there rather hastily, as I pointed out last time, because people heard about the DBA's proposal for the 10%, and I think it opens up the question of what else is important that we should be supporting with this. And okay, I'll just finish. What about energy conservation? Why shouldn't energy conservation be part of what's important out of these funds? Why shouldn't something like recreation, which is also important to attract people to Brattleboro and to lift the boats of Brattleboro, so to speak? And this is not the position that the select board should be in at all, is to be parceling out little bits of this. Our idea here is to be able to say to the DBA, here you have this pot of funds, and we're going to be checking in on you every year, or however we decide to do that, and we want to see how it's being used for the promotion of Brattleboro.
Okay, so.
Let me just finish. So once again, I think the support of the arts should happen via the DBA in relation to promoting Brattleboro, helping our restaurants, hotels, and bars become even more successful, and better supporting our property taxpayers, who, we've been saying this a little bit over and over again, but property taxpayers in this town pay 86% of everything that needs to be paid for. And the same reason I support the 1% local option tax is exactly the reason why I think promotion via the DBA, who's set up to do promotions, and they're very good at it, is what these funds should be assigned to. I don't personally approve of other interests, and that does not mean that I don't value the arts. I just don't think this is the funding mechanism for it.
Can I piggyback?
Oh, yeah.
So I remained confused just thinking about the previous proposal that was before us, and so the way I see it, or at least from my little bit of experience in the town, I've only been here for close to 10 years, I've seen people come in for art-related events and stay overnight and go to some of the local restaurants and bars, and then wake up the next day because they wanted to go participate in other arts-related events or enjoy and see more of the town. Had the proposal that was presented between the DBA and the chamber included a slice, a component that included public art or something creatively connected, that also connected to the economy and such, I would have been more supportive of it. There would have been a higher chance for me to be supportive of it. As it stands now, I'm not sure, and I do apologize for saying this out loud, that I trust DBA. I know that they do good work. I know that they're the reason why our streets, look beautiful. I question, the inclusivity of some of the things that they do. And given one of the suggestions some months ago about potentially having shoe shiners and the parking garage as a way, it was just an idea. I personally took offense to that. And some of the other things, I'm not sure that if that would be the group trusted to be doling out money for the creative economy, I would want to know that there were more partners at the table for that. And that's my strong stance. So I totally respect where you're coming from. But again, I think that if there was a chance, and I'm not sure how that works given that we already voted on it, so I'm still not clear how that slices out. If there was a chance that a percentage of that money could be connected somehow to that, given that the artists are, people come here and they leave and they talk about some of the things that they've actually enjoyed of the creative economy, I would have been way more supportive of it.
Do you want me to just, on a procedural note, these are like two
Sure.
very distinct
Absolutely.
things.
Thank you.
So it's not
Yeah.
like because
Right.
one proposal was funded, the other one can't be.
Right.
So there's nothing prohibiting people from tonight saying, yes, we want to do the arts fund at 2%. It does not have to be in any way, shape, or form attached to what happened
Right.
at the last meeting. So
Thank you
does
for
that
clarifying.
make sense?
Yeah, that's great.
They're
for
not
clarifying.
they're not competing things.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to respond to Tim. First of all, I do marketing myself. I respect that world. You mentioned why not give it to recreation? Why not give it to energy, right? They are funded already. The arts are zero. There's zero funded from the town.
I would agree with that, and I want to just, first of all, I'm sorry I was late. The roads are bad, and I live in Newfane. So, but I'm just hoping to say a couple of things. One is that I would ask this board to send it to town meeting and let the constituents decide if this is something that they want to fund in the town, because I understand that there is some discrepancy. I also want to come back with some information that I discovered over this last week, which is that several towns across Vermont have in fact added arts to their funds for this next budget year and some last budget year for the reason of growing the economy. And in most cases, it's for project grants like we're basically doing here, like we're proposing here. And they're not specific project grants, they're arts funds. And the reason is, again, because they're seeing how that develops in the economy. One example of this is in Montpelier. They just added $20,000 to their town budget for the arts. And because they are completely recognizing how it grows in their communities. And I have, I can back that up, and I don't want to today, and I won't, but over and over and over again, how economic development helps. But I guess what I've come here willing to do is say, we can agree to disagree about that, and I hope to sit down with many of you over the next year and talk about how the economy and the arts are related. But what I would ask is that the constituents in Brattleboro get to decide if this is something that they want to fund.
Are there any other comments?
Usually I go with my intuition on things, and this seems to me like something that I feel at this point in the budget process needs to just be given to town meeting representatives to have brought up from the floor. The complexity of it, where we're kind of at in the closing out of the process here, it feels like that's the right thing to do. And I would be inclined to send it forward to representative town meeting to have you bring it from the floor.
Now, you want to clarify what you mean? Like not put it on the town meeting warning or?
Well, I would encourage them to bring it from the floor, but I would prefer it if we voted it to go on the warning personally, so that people would know that it was going to come up and have an opportunity to formulate their conversations about it ahead of time.
I agree.
May I
Oh, yeah.
clarify something?
Yeah.
So just if it is to be voted at town meeting this year and actually have an impact for funding for the coming year, then it has to be on the warning. It can't be done under other matters because no binding actions can be taken under other matters.
Well, there we go.
I'm actually disagree with Brandy respectfully. I think when we bring something and ask town meeting voters at town meeting to vote on it, it needs to be a fleshed out proposal. And again, still at this point, we don't even know who a check would be written to. So I would vote not to put it on the town meeting warning. It wouldn't matter if it were you folks or anybody else coming before us who didn't know what the group was getting the money, how the money was going to be distributed. I think that does a disservice to our town meeting reps. So I can't support putting it on the town meeting warning.
I did mean to also just let you know that in my conversation with the Arts Council of Windham County, we just have to have a board meeting to have a deep discussion about it among our 10 members, and we could end up using them. But in all of these budgets that I explored in the other select boards and city councils, it was actually the town that administered the funds, and it went on to the town budget itself, and then it was a separate entity that vetted and that's what we originally basically had proposed. We just didn't know it wouldn't go through the town arts committee, and that's what I think would be the most appropriate.
Okay. Does anyone in the public have any comments about this issue? Yes. Come up to the mic for the rest of the world.
My name is John Eastis. I don't live in Brattleboro, I live in Guilford, but I've been involved with the arts here for many years. And I lived for 3 years out near Seattle and was involved, I ran an arts council on Bainbridge Island, just west of Seattle. I can speak about what Washington does about this very subject and how it seems so simple and so straightforward. The state of Washington uses the same tax and across the entire state they have, it's a law, it's determined that a certain percentage of this tax has to be used for arts and tourism promotion. So it's the same thing that you guys are talking about right now. Oh, so every percentage of of the appropriation that's given back to every town for this tax. So it's a little different here in that you guys would be deciding that rather than the state determining it. But the point is that the monies are held at the city. Where the money comes down. There's a standalone committee that makes determinations about where the money is to be spent in support of the arts and in support of tourism. And then the city cuts checks essentially to those. It's a very, very simple, straightforward process. I was on the determining group, and it was a combination of entities that were part of the process each year that had to administer the receipt of proposals, the judgment on the proposals, and the determination for how the monies were going to be spent. And it was a very, very supportive and wonderful way to get the community talking about not just how the arts affect the economy, but how arts and tourism can work together. And the projects actually were intended to be for tourism and increasing visibility and the general economy using arts and tourism. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make a comment? Lissa?
Lissa Weinman, Brattleboro. So I came here last week because I heard there was going to be $42,000 spent on a video to promote the town. I read the headline. I was told consequently that the headline was wrong and that there was no video, and I came to the meeting to hear what the plan was from the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance and the Chamber, which Kate runs, to see what was the plan for the $42,000, because it sounded what was $42,000 for a video? That sounded crazy. And I walked out with $42,000 being allotted for the promotion of a plan which we still don't know what it is. DBA and the Chamber have a track record. Tim is happy to know that they'll make good use of those funds. But the fact is that they did not present a plan for how they were going to spend an additional $42,000. So that's troubling. However, I think promotion's important, and I'm not here to take issue with that. You're saying this was the town arts funding for a public arts fund for the town was a hastily brought forward proposal. Yes, because people didn't know that there was even the possibility of asking for a percentage of the rooms and meals tax. People at the chamber and people at the EBA, they knew very well that there was a pot of money, and they went after it and they prepared. But the general public, including artists and others, had no idea that there might be some funding available. We live in a sort of a scarcity mindset where it's sort of like, well, we couldn't ask the town for anything. They don't have anything. So yes, I think it was hastily thrown together. However, the town plan and numerous discussions over many years have pointed to the need for some type of public funding on the part of the town for arts projects that would benefit the town and draw tourism to the town. So now you might think that it's good spending, and maybe you're right to spend $42,000 on promotion. But the truth is what are you promoting? You're promoting the work of people, creatives, who scrape by, who don't have any funding from the town, but yet who create the renown of this town as an art destination. Okay? We run 118 Elliott and 118 Gallery. We mount shows there for local artists primarily. It's very expensive. We function almost as a nonprofit. However, we do pay our $9,000 in taxes every year. We pay that to the town, and we put on shows because we recognize that local artists need to be nurtured, and they need a place, and they need support. So we take that on as private citizens to try to help that along and just break even. But it's kind of incredible that a town like Brattleboro can't see fit to put 2% of a rooms and meals tax that's largely growing because of the presence of the arts. Can't see fit after the town plan and everything else calling for it all this time to throw $8,000 that way, but can put $42,000 for promoting what? So I think it's very short-sighted on the part of the town. Now, I do understand, where are we going to put that money? We don't have a place. Arts Council of Winnebago County's not ready. The Town Arts Committee's not ready to accept those funds. I came here last week because we have a project that was conceived of by 5 and more nonprofits in the town called the Brattleboro Words Project that is really been created to promote the town of Brattleboro. That is why it was created, by using one of our greatest resources, the strength of our history and our history of writing and printing and publishing in this town, which is rich and great and world-renowned. So our project is, as you all know, because we've been working on it for 2 years, works with the Literary Festival, which brings in people every fall, works with the Brattleboro Historical Society, works with the library, works with Right Action to create a book that will live on about the printing and publishing history of this town, which is being edited by Jeff Potter. There's going to be a museum exhibit at the end of this, which the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center is funding out of its own pocket because they see the value of this in terms of the promotion of the town as a whole. So when I came here last week, I was a little peeved to see that $42,000 was going for promotion, but that a project like ours, which would create many products, create audio, create maps, pays artists to participate. We just paid a local musician $750 to create the music for our podcasts. We're going to be paying local artists to create gorgeous maps, which Kate told me they need very much at the chamber. Mm-hmm. People love maps. We want to create artistic, gorgeous maps for walking, biking, and driving tours, all beginning in Brattleboro, celebrating Brattleboro. So I think that's a project that's worthy of funding. And I think it's even more worthy of funding because we have the recognition of the National Endowment for the Humanities and a federal matching grant. So my proposition would be, yes, we need a town arts committee. I was hoping that if we had a town arts committee, that arts committee could, the town public arts fund not the Arts Committee, excuse me, could sit, and I would make my case, as I am to you right now, why should you give some money to the Brattleboro Words Project? And they would decide, yes, that's a worthy project. We're going to give you part of that 8,000, or we're going to give you the whole 8,000, or we're going to... I understand it's hasty and you can't maybe do that today because there's nobody to receive the funds and it's still a work in progress. However, we do have a project right now today called the Brattleboro Words Project with a federal match that is involving scores of people in this town that could really use your support. And if you're not going to warn to the town representatives a 2% for a general arts committee, that they'll have some time to put together a group and a fiscal arrangement in that time, because they weren't part of the inside track to know that money was available, I remind you, then perhaps the 2% could go to a project like the Brattleboro Words Project as a first project that already has a fiscal sponsor and already has grants coming in and already has literally hundreds of donations from the local community, but still needs to raise the money for next year to produce the maps, to produce a mobile app, and to finish the project. Okay? That is why I'm standing here now, is to say, I believe that the town should not only give money to promote, but should also feed a little bit to create what will be promoted by others. So I back this proposal and I signed the letter. But if you're going to just throw it out and say, this is too hasty, we're not going to give the 2% this year, then I'm here to say, what about the first project being funding the Words Project? And in the next year, there'll be time to devise a structure for the arts, public arts fund to take hold and to use money moving forward.
Okay, let me just talk.
And that's what I would have to say.
Thank you, Lisa. I just want to go back to the procedural thing here. On our agenda tonight is the Arts Fund proposal, and that's what we're going to be voting on, and we can't talk about anything else because we have a warned agenda item. So something like that would have to be at a future meeting, so we can't go down that path.
It would be that the Arts Fund's first project would be to fund the Brattleboro Words Project.
I think that's outside the scope of what we can talk about this evening. So,
Right?
Because it's not warned.
It's not a
and
warned
we follow
agenda
open
item.
meeting laws.
the warrant agenda item that we are discussing tonight is the proposal that Arlene and Brenda have put before us.
I
And
see.
So,
So if Arlene and Brenda wanted to say, yes, as a first project, we would have those funds go to the Brattleboro Words Project, would that be acceptable?
well,
No.
no,
Not.
we can't get into that.
We
That's-
literally can't talk about something in this
Right.
open forum.
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
It has not been warned that people,
could come in.
then I would speak strongly in support for the Town Public Arts Fund at 2%. That's $8,000 for the creation of public artworks that would lend themselves to tourism development and the promotion of the town. And I will very gladly apply to that fund for the Brattleboro Words
That's
Project.
right to do it.
You're here.
And I do want people to stay on topic, because the topic is, are we going to move of the public arts fund proposal on to town meeting? And so it is.
can I just say
Yeah.
one last thing? Just because Zahn got up there, and thank you for doing that, sort of giving us a little perspective about how it can be done, because I think there are wonderful mechanisms where this town directly could support the arts. I just don't think this is the mechanism. And we are here tonight, and this really came up 1 week from the night that we had to throw something forward to town meeting. It's just not the process, it's not together enough, in my opinion, even if I thought it was an appropriate way to do that, which I don't, unfortunately. It's just not enough time for. I've sat up here for 2 years on the select board. We have not, in my memory, had any arts proposal come before us where we have denied funding. Okay, so this is a rushed idea. And part of the problem, I think, is that it has to be thought through. Everyone has to have some input about how much public money should be spent on the arts, and I believe there is a good argument for it. But I think this is a wonderful opportunity if we're going to use a percentage of the meals, rooms, and alcohol tax that comes from restaurants, hotels, bars, and contributes to us paying for what we have to pay for in this town. It's a wonderful opportunity for the artists in our town to go to the DBA and say, and I believe that their proposal does mention the arts. I know that it's not in the...
Don't get me started, because we had about 2
wanted
meetings,
to
maybe
throw that out
a
there.
month to consider that proposal. And again, that was not a proposal. I still was unclear. The 2 pages,
I just want to point out
No.
that it does mention the arts in
they
there.
didn't plan very well in what they presented.
And can we just go back to?
Sure.
Let me just finish my thought.
Yeah.
So I just don't think, Son, thank you. I hope Juno Orchestra is doing really well. I just don't think this is the mechanism, so that's where I'm...
So
And again, wait, can you hold on one second? I just want to bring us back to, we're talking about the Arts
Yeah.
Fund proposal. I mean,
Right.
you are too, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. This isn't about anything, this is about this given
Right.
proposal.
And I want to say that I feel like, or I don't feel like we've offered a way that it could, an entity it could go to. I don't know if that's appropriate in this town, but I think that the town can administer. It's happening in other select boards and city councils. The group would be formed that vets the processes. The money would come from the 2% rooms and meals tax, and we'd be funding public art projects that bring people into our community that then feed into that rooms and meals tax. So I do think that we've had some clarity here, and I know that we're not going to convince you tonight, Tim, but I would really ask that that you consider sending it to town meeting and letting the constituents decide, because it really is something that benefits everybody, both economically and it's the culture of our town. It is I mean, when we're sitting here and we're talking about the overdose epidemic, the heroin epidemic, when we're talking about those things, making sure that there is a mechanism to continue to create this art in our community is really important. And as someone who's kind of on my way out in the arts, part of that reason is because there isn't that mechanism. And so part of that reason is because I love politics, but the other reason is that. And so I really do want to be clear that this town is extremely important to me, and what I love and had growing up here is extremely important to me, and that our children have this stuff is extremely important to me, and I know that this mechanism is needed urgently to be able to continue to have what we have here.
To bring it back, I do want to just say I'm comfortable as myself, like just saying I support the idea of letting the people vote on it for town meeting day.
I don't feel like I can support the other one, which I did support, the $42,000 proposal, which was not very fleshed out and was not as fleshed out as I would have preferred it to be, or would have probably done it. I can't support that and not support this, because that feels hypocritical to me, because both came to the table with about from the 60,000 foot view. None of them came with spreadsheets or budgets or projections or risk projections or any kind of shock treatment done to any of it. And I let that go forward because I believe that that's important. And I would feel weird not also letting this go forward in that same spirit.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me for interrupting. I was waiting to see if somebody was going to move what's before you. And in some further communication after the backup materials went out with the town attorney and the finance director, they've taken the essence of the motion that was in your administrative report, but slightly differently worded in a way that the town attorney and the finance director both believe is more appropriate.
But make sure, Shanta, that the intent, that's what you want to say.
Yeah.
Just because they've given you that motion doesn't mean you have to read it.
That's-
Do you see what I'm saying?
Which
I
is the
can-
motion?
'cause at- well,
I thought my exams were over.
Because Shanta, we don't know what your motion was going to be.
That's
so
fair.
if that is not, in the
Oh.
essence of what your motion is, you don't read that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Should I read it out loud? Just.
Well,
No, what is your motion, what's your motion gonna, your thinking of your motion gonna be?
Well, it was on this.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That was
perfect.
That's what I was thinking.
And so long as that's where you were headed, this is
I
what
was
we
gonna
believe
make
is a
anything up.
better wording of the same motion.
Yeah, I just didn't want you to like,
Okay. Just like.
Right.
no, I
shouldn't.
No,
I'm
you're
not
exactly
dreaming,
right.
right?
You gotta make sure it is your
This is,
intent.
okay.
Yeah.
because I have no idea what's on that paper, so.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to add the following article to the 2019 representative town meeting warning to see if the town will add the sum of $8,424 to the FY20 budget to establish an arts fund and to appropriate the sum of $8,424 from the unassigned general fund balance.
And you'll give that back so I can read it again.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have any discussion about that motion on the board?
Seems good.
In public? It's gonna take, yes, Franz.
Franz Reichsman from the Finance Committee. Again, the Finance Committee as a whole has not had a chance yet to talk about this and come to any kind of consensus or decision about it. But I feel that it's important to stand up for the sake of consistency and say that the remarks that I made last week about the other proposal for the DBA and the Chamber apply equally to this, that the details of the spending, the details of the governing mechanism, any consideration of why this is the right amount of money, what the results of this spending are going to be, all that has been discussed in only very general terms. And this is not something that I think meets the standard by which we should be operating when we make budget decisions. So regardless of what a good idea it might be and how it might come to fruition in the future, I personally don't think that we're at the point where I could support going ahead with this, which is what I said about the proposal last week for the DBA and the Chamber equally. So I'm just personally saying I feel there's a consistency here, and that, you know, on the one hand, I agree with Brandy in seeing it as a consistency versus inconsistency, but I think both of these didn't meet the standard for what we should be doing in budgetary matters. Thank you.
I have a question. I'm confused
Yeah.
about something.
Yeah.
Did something change and when we do motions, then we vote? Are we now talking about motions as we're making them? Like, what's happening here?
We
I'm very confused. I'm sorry.
There's different ways of doing things. Sometimes people, it's what Franz always talks about, sometimes you make a motion before you start a discussion,
Oh,
and then other times you have the discussion and then you make the motion.
okay, because I was
Right.
accustomed to,
Under
Yeah.
Robert's rules, you
Yeah.
always make the motion
Yeah.
first, and then all discussion happens under
Yeah.
that motion.
Got it.
And that helps with clarity sometimes. We
Or
have an
unclear.
informal, long-standing tradition
Yeah.
at the select board.
so
way
we
before
just
I got here.
changed our,
Well,
No,
no, we
not
should,
really.
It's
we
a
have
different-
no.
We sometimes make the motion and then continue discussion.
Yeah, which is legal.
Which is totally
Which is long.
fine, because we follow the sort of informal rules.
Yeah.
But I just want to say something
Yeah.
very quickly,
Yeah.
just because Brandy brought up a point that she didn't want to send something forward, the original proposal from the DBA, and not send this one forward. The difference for me is that the DBA and the Chamber are two organizations that clearly have a track record for promotion in this town, whereas this proposal is sending it to the Arts Fund, in quotes, and it's far too nonspecific for me. So that's why I support sending the other one forward and not this one.
For promotion, and we don't even know what that is, huh? I mean,
So
I don't.
the-
I'll hold my comments, but.
The Town Arts Committee has existed for some years. It was created by the town. So I would imagine you'd have some confidence in it. The Arts Council of Windham County has existed for many years.
And I would also say that the people bringing the proposal forward have a track record for creating strong public art in this community as well, in organizational entities.
Great. Are we
Thanks.
ready to vote on the motion?
I think we're ready.
It's going to take 3 votes in the affirmative to pass. If it's 2-2, it means it's a tie and it does not pass. So it's going to take 3 votes. And I'm going to read it so we make sure we all know what we're doing. Shanta has made a motion to add the following article to the 2019 Representative Town Meeting warning. To see if the town will add the sum of $8,424 to the FY20 budget to establish an arts fund and to appropriate the sum of $8,424 from the unassigned general fund balance. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
2-2, the motion is defeated. That's what we have it. Thank you.
See you at town meeting, right?
Next up is the town meeting warning. And we have in front of us the
Oh, they don't know.
the warning, and what we're being asked to do is approve it tonight. And I just want to, before we go through them, talk about Article 14, and not the substance of it, but the, how it came about. Can everybody hear, listening to me? You guys, we have one more order of business. We have one more order of business. So what I just want to quickly go through is Article 14, and again, that's the one we were just talking about, the Chamber and DBA. I don't want to talk about the substance of it. I just want to talk about how it came about so that people aren't confused on how we ended up where we ended up. And at the last meeting, as everybody knew, I stepped out, and I didn't know what happened until I watched the repeat. And we had, the first motion that was made was to bring the proposal and have it as an article on the town meeting warning. That was a 2-2 vote, so that was defeated. The second motion was to add the $42,119 as a line item on the select board budget that goes to town meeting. That was approved. So those were the 2 actions that were taken. Then we have the warning appeared, and Article 14 is there. And Article 14 reads, to see if the town will appropriate $42,119 from the unassigned general fund balance. So the question I want to make sure everybody understands is how Article 14 got there if, one, the first vote that was taken at last week's select board meeting was to not put it on as a warning item. The one thing that was left off of the motion that it put the $42,000 in the budget was the funding source. There was no funding source, whether it was the general fund or through taxes. Town staff, based on conversations that had occurred prior, assumed or thought the intention of the select board was to take it from the general fund, not the general fund, the unassigned fund balance. And we have a memo here from Bob Fisher explaining that when money is taken from the unassigned fund balance, it needs to be voted on separately by town meeting. That's how it becomes an article. So that's why we have Article 14, because town staff, based on what they had heard, even though it wasn't specified in the motion, assumed that the money was going to be coming from the fund balance. So our after that complicated thing, which I hope is not too complicated, if that was your intent when you voted on that line item or that motion to have it come out of the fund balance,
Right.
then Article 14 just stays there and we vote on the warning as is. If the intent was that it comes out of taxes, then Article 14 goes off, and then another whole thing has to happen. So I just want to make sure is that everybody in the public and everybody especially sitting here understands what was the intent of that motion.
Absolutely.
To come out of unassigned fund balance.
I didn't vote, so I'm going to stay
Right,
silent.
right.
Yeah.
That was the
That was the
intent
intent.
at the time.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So if the intent of the time
We
was
have a hand.
Oh, yes.
Bronze.
If the intent of the time was that Article 14 fulfills that intent. Does that make sense to everybody?
Now that they've confirmed
Yeah.
that, may I just clarify
Yeah.
one quick thing?
Yeah.
So 100% of what Kate described is right on point, and it's helpful to have your confirmation that the intent that we understood was accurate, because then we can represent to you that the warning that's in front of you is properly worded. The one quick thing I want to just confirm for the record, just because in your description of how it all unfolded, you mentioned a couple of times that it was based on things that staff had heard prior.
Well, during the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
that's
wanted
what
to
I
make
meant.
sure
Yeah.
I know
Prior
we
to-
all know that. I
prior
want to make
to-
sure
oh, yeah,
that the
yeah.
public is aware
Yes,
that
yes.
it was things we actually heard in
Prior
the
to
discussion
prior
that
to the
evening, prior
motion.
to the vote.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes, that's what I meant. Prior to the motion, there was conversation about the unassigned fund balance.
Thanks.
Yes, and I've watched that meeting like 10 times.
I was like,
so I
really
know.
only discussion about that, I think.
Franz.
Just something that I'm not quite clear on, which is what would happen in the event that the budget passes and the article specifying that the money comes from fund balance fails? What would be the outcome of that?
We'll have to address that in the course of town meeting. As it's currently prepared, this item and all other items that have a potential impact on the budget would be dealt with on their own merits before arriving at the budget article. And the reason we always do it that way is so that in the discussion regarding the budget article, we're able to describe what the impact of the actions taken earlier in town meeting are for the action that's to be taken on the budget. So it would then be up to town meeting to decide whether they want to amend the budget in the manner that reflects the decisions that have been made during the earlier portion of the meeting. I know there have been occasions over the years when the budget discussion becomes more complicated than just that. We'll say that in the last few years, that's exactly what we've seen happen. We've seen a number of articles leading up to the budget article where there's, shall we do this or shall we do that, that's very specific. And then we keep track of the results of that, report that to the body as the budget article is being considered. And for the last few years, what the body has done then is approved the budget as it is modified during the meeting, as it has been modified during the meeting, to arrive then at a final figure.
You know, because that's also the case with the capital projects that we're taking from the unassigned fund balance. It's
Right.
the same case with the human services
That's
budget.
exactly right.
It's the same case with kids' place is separate, visiting nurses of New Hampshire,
Select
Vermont
board
is separate.
salaries, I mean, there's about
Yeah.
8 or 10 or 12 different items leading up to the budget item that all have potential implications for the budget.
Yeah. And last year we did it with the snowplow. Remember we had that?
Yeah, that one actually came after last year because it was
Right.
added to the
To-
budget
right.
after the budget got adopted.
Well, the skate park, I think, was somewhat
Yes.
similar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have to
Does that
think
make
about it
sense?
some more. I'm just trying to figure out what, at what point during the process does town meeting get to meaningfully address the question of whether to fund this or not? I think, you know, had you passed the resolution last week that failed, then it would have been a clear-cut opportunity
Right.
for town meeting to say yes or no on the item itself. Now it's town meeting gets to say yes or no on the funding source,
Right.
but then it's a separate question whether the town meeting representatives want to speak about funding it at all. And I understand that with the articles written as they now are, town meeting would be limited to saying we want to decrease the total budget by a certain amount without having the ability to reach into the budget and say, and that's what we want to cut.
That's right.
That is correct.
So I'm just trying to envision how this might play out
Yep.
at the end of March. Thank you.
Yes. Does anybody else have any questions or comments about the town meeting articles? Is there any, I mean, oh yeah, Tim.
Well, I had a small thing, and I don't know if people will agree, but Article 23,
Oh,
which is
I disagree.
pertaining to the limited self-governance pilot program, I kind of was just going to suggest a slight rewording, which is instead of to see if the town will express strong support, I was kind of hoping that we could just make it clear that we have already expressed strong support and that the town body will be joining us.
right, well, join, why does?
So I was going to suggest to see if the town join our select board in expressing strong support for the Vermont League, blah,
Right.
blah, blah.
Right. Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a little stronger of a statement.
Seems fine.
Yeah.
To see if the town will join the select board. Is that what you want to say?
Yeah, because it just
And
shows
expressing
that-
support,
Right.
strong support.
I don't feel super strongly, but I just like.
That's
it better.
simple.
Fine.
And this is not the time to comment on Article 25. That's not our duty, right?
No.
I just want to point out that I'm really cold
I'm
right
wearing
now.
I'm
long
so cold
underwear.
right now, and I'm wearing long underwear.
It's-
2 pairs of wool socks. So put that on the record.
Because we can't hear when we have the heater
You're on.
Well, it's hard to take notes when your hands are cold.
Yeah, and then, so we don't have to, we were talking about this earlier, the school board part, we don't have to approve any of their language.
Because of the uncertainty related to Act 46, and there's litigation and legislation all being considered that might affect how the school items go forward, the school this year is putting out its own warning for its own town meeting. The wording of the timing of that meeting will be that it'll be on this same day at the same location, immediately following the town's town meeting.
Now, can I ask a question about that, though?
Sure.
So, do we have our own other business? The town have other business?
No, so the way the day will unfold will be in the same manner as it traditionally has, where there's, one entity's business, the other entity's business, and then the other matters. But the other matters will come at the end of the school's meeting.
So, people from the town can bring up other business under the schools, other
Yes,
business?
because it's the same body, and the other business item is going to be worded in a way that it's any other business proper to come before the body. So that's how.
Like, I don't care, it's just sort of weird that if they're having their own.
It is weird. It is different this year than any time that I'm aware of ever before because of the Act 46 uncertainty. And it's the way that Town Moderator Lauren Crisp and Town Attorney Bob Fisher thought it could best be handled.
Okay.
Because of that uncertainty. Because otherwise, there would have been assumptions made in what was put into this warning that might have caused there to be some sort of improper form to this warning.
So other business is going to occur under the school meeting?
It will, but the discussions won't be limited
I
to
know.
just school issues.
I have a reason to think
Okay.
later.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was going to offer that you could sort of conditionally say, if it's possible and proper, that you could have another business here and another business there. But the two attorneys had a pretty long conversation about this. And I think if you passed a motion like that tonight, we'd have to come back together again for you to pass
Nope.
Oh, no,
the
no.
warning on a
no,
settled question.
It's actually totally fine with me to do it that way.
Okay.
I have no objection. It just,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm
Okay.
not coming back.
Yeah. So does anybody want to make a motion? Or unless anybody has any
Does
more?
making a motion mean reading all of these?
No.
Nope.
All right, then I'll make a
It's
motion.
a short one.
It's the motion at the bottom of the page on the administrative report.
Right here?
And you want to use the as modified during language, not the as presented for.
Because
Okay.
we modified Article 25, no,
23.
23 per Tim.
Correct.
Okay,
All right.
ready?
Yep.
I move to approve as presented. Oh,
Nope.
can I start again?
Yes.
Nice.
I move to approve as modified during this January 29 meeting, the warning for the annual town and town school district meetings to be held on March 5th, 2019, and the select board's warning for the annual representative town meeting to be held on March 23rd, 2019.
Brandy has made a motion to approve as modified, the January 20, to approve as modified, the warning for the annual town and town school district meeting.
Should we just make that clear for the record?
Oh, yeah.
That's the modification.
And the modification is to Article 23. It will now read, to see if the town will join the select board in strongly, no, I'm sorry, let me start again. Peter's handwriting, his handwriting's really clear, I'm just not good at writing. Article 23 is going to be amended as follows, so it will read, "To see if the town will join the select board in expressing strong support for the Vermont League of Cities and Towns proposal to the Vermont State Legislature to create a limited self-governance pilot program for Vermont municipalities."
And the rest of the warning will be as it was
Was
presented this
presented.
evening and posted on the town's website.
Yeah, does that make sense? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? 4-0.
Peace.
Drive safely, everybody.
Peace out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That also includes, will you please clarify me unless I was dumb last week? Does that also mean that includes?